Hello. With the numerous terrorist attacks that's happening across the world, one of the latest and probably one of the most heart-rending attacks that's happened is in Dhaka, Bangladesh, where terrorists killed like 29 people, 50 injured. They killed the people who were unable to recite the Quran. Now, with the spate of terrorist attacks happening in the name of Islam, this could have also been taken as one of those many terrorist attacks had it not been for the Bangladesh government discovering that one of the terrorists was inspired by none other than Zakir Naik. Now, those who are aware or not aware, Zakir Naik is a very popular, well-known Dawa preacher. He runs his own organization called as the Islamic Research Foundation and has his own TV channel called as Peace TV. One of the terrorists had even run a Facebook campaign last year, quoting by now a famous line by Zakir Naik that all Muslims should be terrorists. Now again, that could have been taken across as one of those isolated incidents where somebody gets, taken out of context, as you may say it. But let me quote a few more for you. I'm sure you may not have heard of many of them. Ayaz Sultan, leader of the Islamic State module in Malavani, who reportedly sneaked out of the country to reach Syria, was influenced by Zakir Naik's speeches. Najibullah Zazi, the Afghan American arrested in 2009 in the US, planned suicide attacks on the New York subway. Again, he was quoted to be inspired by Zakir Naik. Kafil Ahmed, the man from Bangalore who executed a failed attack on the Glasgow airport in 2007. Rahul Sheikh, the accused in 2006 train blast in Mumbai, again inspired by Zakir Naik, who claimed to be inspired by Zakir Naik, that is. Now recently, the National Investigation Agency, the premier investigation agency for terrorist attacks in India, busted an Islamic State module in Hyderabad and arrested Ibrahim Yazdani. He too confessed to the investigators that they were inspired by Zakir Naik's speeches. Is it any wonder that many countries such as the UK, Canada has banned any travel to their countries by Zakir Naik, or the state governments of states in India such as Allahabad, Kanpur and Lucknow also banned him for his speeches? Now, Islamic countries such as Malaysia, Bangladesh and Indonesia have banned airing of his TV channel. So it is therefore beyond any sort of contest that these drew some inspiration or the other from Zakir Naik. So what does any country on whom a terrorist attack has happened would do? Like any other responsible country, what did Bangladesh do? The government then requested the Indian government to run an inquiry into the work and speeches of Zakir Naik. Remember, it was not India or its investigation agency or its politicians running a unilateral or one-sided inquiry into Zakir Naik. It was the Bangladesh government, an Islamic country, that requested the Indian government to run an analysis of Zakir Naik. What was the outcome of that? After conveniently ignoring all these quotes by terrorists claiming to be inspired by Zakir Naik, after willfully forgetting that it was the Bangladeshi government who requested India to run an inquiry into the works of Zakir Naik, what happens? The gullible motley crew fans of Zakir Naik start playing the victim card, claiming a communal flair, claiming to be from the minorities, claiming to be targeted for attacks by the political setup of India. That's what they do. Now, let me quote a few for you. Prime example among them would be Mr. M.M. Akbar, a very close friend and very well-known Dawa preacher in South India, with whom Zakir Naik has worked. They worked very closely for many years now. He started a Facebook campaign that I support Zakir Naik. Not just that, the Islamic fraternity in Kashmir has started a campaign that they too support Zakir Naik. The laughable part is that Mr. M.M. Akbar has claimed that because the government is unable to ideologically counter Islam, they have targeted a well-known individual. Really? Are you trying to tell me, Mr. Akbar, that the Bangladeshi government, an Islamic country government, is unable to understand and accept the ideology of Islam? Is that what you're saying? How do we know that? Just look it up. Just look it up on the online newspapers, on YouTube, and you can see that there will be dozens and dozens of quotes by Muslims who want to say that Zakir Naik is being victimized. Look at the comments and statements released by Zakir Naik, and you can see that very, very easily and very clearly playing the victim card in a country where they are the so-called minority. Now, is Zakir Naik a victim? I say absolutely no. Why I say that? I'll give you two reasons for that. First, I'll touch on this point briefly, is that Zakir Naik is by no means a scholar, as his fans tout him to be the foremost front line of defense of Islam, Dr. Zakir Naik. He is by no definition a scholar. He is not at all a debater. Now, of course, and now his fans must be jumping, who has debated so many people. Absolutely not. Let me tell you who is debated. First, Dr. William Campbell, Quran and Bible in the Light of Science. Next was Pastor Rukni. Then the next worthwhile debate that he has done was with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Of these two were men of God who represented their faiths. And the first one that actually started his career was Dr. William Campbell, who is actually a research expert. He is not a debater, so he was not able to understand the wordplay of Zakir Naik. And if you go to our website or to our YouTube pages, you can see the refutation of the entire debate of Zakir Naik. But so what is he then? So he is, if you look at it, you can see that he is nothing more than a great orator having excellent showman skills, and is nothing more than a marketing guy who has minted crores and millions of petrodollars by espousing Islamic supremacy over everything. Logic can be damned. Let me come to the second point, which is actually much more interesting. In this second part of the video, I'll be showcasing many strategic videos of Zakir Naik, not mine, Zakir Naik, newspaper articles. Now, I'm not competent enough I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not competent to discuss on legal matters, whether it is a crime or not, what he said and done. I'll leave it to the honorable courts to decide. For now, here are a few examples. Let's go to the first one that actually made him famous in this level, Zakir Naik on suicide bombings.
Is suicide under any circumstances justified in Islam?
But I have the question that, is suicide under any circumstances justified in Islam? The question of suicide per se, you should define what does it mean. And I know that your reference may be in context to suicide bombing. Correct? Suicide bombing or, going for a particular thing. The question didn't say that, but I'm in the field. So more suicide bombing. The difference between suicide bombing and committing suicide. Suicide per se is haram. But if you ask me suicide bombing, as I said, individual case you have to analyze what the individual case say. If it's one individual who takes a decision and does it, it's totally haram in Islam. So I do agree with Sheikh Salman Oda. As a last resort, if under certain circumstances, you know that the loss that is there is less and the gain is more, following all the rules of the Sharia, following the Quran and Hadith, as the last resort, under guidance, not they get up in the morning and take a decision on your own, it's totally haram, killing an human being is haram. In that context, as a last resort, it can be used, and I do agree with Sheikh Salman Oda. Hope that answers the question.
Let's think about it. What is this context that he is referring to? What is this interpreter and scholar that is referring to? That justifies suicide bombing under no circumstances, under no context, under no interpreter or scholar is suicide bombings justified in any manner, resulting in thousands and thousands of innocents dead every year. Every year. Here are a few questions that I would like to ask the fans of Zakir Naik and possible Zakir Naik himself. Question number one. You've heard Zakir say that, okay, you need some interpreter, some scholar, some guide to guide you. You cannot just get up in the morning and say, okay, I want to go and blow yourself up. Let me ask you, Baghdadi, who's the founder of ISIS, is a PhD in Quranic studies. He knows Arabic inside out. He is a PhD from a reputed Islamic university. Is he a scholar, or is he in a position to guide or not? Will any Muslim with that credentials at least be given the credibility of guiding? Yes, of course. If some Islamic scholars, there are many fanatics. Question number 2. If some Islamic scholar in India guides the youth to go and blow themselves up with trains, buses on the roads, is it acceptable then by Zakir's own definition? This is just a fig leaf of an excuse to justify suicide bombing. If Islamic scholars is all that is needed to urge people to do what is needed, now Islamic scholars are even asking for the arrest of Zakir Naik and ban on his organization. Will he accept it? Or is it acceptable only if it pertains to killing somebody else? Let us look at another video of Zakir Naik. This time is what again got him into trouble is Zakir Naik on Osama bin Laden.
Regarding telling Osama bin Laden and Taliban what they are doing is damaging Islam, etc. Whether that is your view. That is your view that Osama bin Laden and Taliban are damaging Islam. But if you ask my view, if he's on the truth, if he's fighting the enemies of Islam, I'm for him. I don't know what he's doing. I'm not in touch with him. I don't know him personally. I read newspapers. If he's terrorizing the terrorist, if he's terrorizing America, the terrorist, biggest terrorist, I'm with him. Every Muslim should be a terrorist. The thing is that if he's terrorizing a terrorist, he's following Islam.
Now going by the definition of the first video, if Zakir said a scholar is needed for all the suicide bombing, which would include 9/11 of course, if scholars is all that is needed, who was the scholar? Did you ever think about it? Who was the scholar that actually guided or was the beacon of light for Osama bin Laden? You're not going to believe this. Here is another link to the terror network. Dr. Zakir Naik's inspiration, from which he really claims in and out day and night, that he is a student of Ahmad Didat. Now Ahmad Didat was an Indian who migrated to South Africa and started his Islamic propaganda over there. Do you know who was the #1 funder of Didat's activities in South Africa? Well, if you guessed it, it was bin Laden and his family. Don't go by my words. Look up these newspaper extracts. Not one, I'm giving multiple. So the building that was made by Ahmad Didat for his activities was funded primarily by bin Laden and his family. Actually, bin Laden had even come and given speeches at his conferences, and so much so indebted was Ahmad Didat to the bin Laden family that they named the building Bin Laden Center. Now after the controversy, they hurriedly changed it out. That's a story for another day. So this man, Ahmad Didat, to whom Zakir Naik calls his uncle Zakir, Uncle Didat, was there for guiding the so-called lives of bin Laden. Watch this.
Main reasons for all my visits to South Africa, including this visit, is to visit Sheikh Ahmad Didat. I call him Uncle Ahmad Didat. And after Uncle saw one of my latest video cassettes on non-wage debate, he said, with tears rolling out, he can communicate through a board, as all of you may be aware, that my son, you have achieved in 4 years what took me more than 40 years. And I said, Uncle, it is because of him that I was able to do it, because he gave it to us on a platter. Otherwise I would have taken 44 years. Uncle did the job. We have to take the advice, take the good things that he has given us, and we have to move ahead. It is because of Uncle that I am here today.
Coming to the next question, question number 5. Did you notice in the video that Zakir Naik said, I'm not sure about the terrorist credentials of Osama bin Laden, and I'm not sure what he did and why he did and stuff like that. What was the real reason for saying that? Even after all the evidence was in place. Was it because bin Laden was the prime promoter of his own mentor, Ahmad Didat? You tell me. Question number 6, again to his motley fan. Think about it. Zakir Naik said in his video that he supports terrorists if they are terrorizing terrorists themselves, and at this time, as per him, the number one terrorist in the world is who? The United States of America. Now, who's there in the crosshairs of the ISIS? Who's the number one? United States of America. So, by that definition, does Zakir Naik support ISIS? Does he not? I would say yes. Now, coming back to ISIS and the barbaric acts, let us see another video of Zakir Naik supporting a very rampant activity of the ISIS, that is sex with the slaves.
Brother asked the question that at the time of the Prophet, there were women who were slave women, and you were allowed to have sex with them even without marrying. So why was it allowed? What is the privilege? And is the vice versa permitted or not? There are many verses in the Quran which says that you can have sex with whom those are your wife and what your right hand possesses. Right hand possesses means they were the slaves, and at the time of the Prophet, the wars used to take place, and when wars used to take place, they were captives. When they were captive from both the sides, the men and the women, they became slaves. Though if you analyze, there are verses in the Quran, which also says in Surah Nisa chapter number 4, that if you do not have the means to get married, then marry a slave woman and give her freedom in mahar. So here the Quran says and encourages that if you don't have the means to get married, so marry a slave woman and give her freedom as mahar. So now the thing is that, so it's preferable to marry. Vice versa, it's not possible. Vice versa is not possible. It is only for the female women slaves that the man can have sex. The Quran doesn't say the vice versa.
Sex with slaves. Well, that's interesting. Here what I can say is that Zakir Naik is intentionally whitewashing Islam. Why do I say that? Okay, don't go by my words. I am an outsider. Let us look at what the hadith, that is the traditions of Islam that Muslims hold very near and dear to their hearts, have to say about sex with slaves. Let me read a couple for you. This is what the hadith says. In Sunan Abu Dawud, verse 11, verse 2150, number 2150, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, the Apostle of Allah sent a military expedition to Avtas on the occasion of the Battle of Hunain. They met their enemy and fought with them. They defeated them and took them captives. Some of the companions of the Apostle of Allah were reluctant, hesitant, to have intercourse, sex, with the female captives in the presence of the husbands who were unbelievers. So what happens? So Allah the Exalted sent down the Quranic verse, which is verse 4.24, and all the married men and all the married women are forbidden unto you save those captives whom your right hand possesses. That is to say, they are lawful for them when they complete their waiting period. That was in Sunan Abu Dawud, which is a highly respected set of hadiths by the Muslims. What do you see in this hadith? Here you see that the fighters of the Prophet had captured some families, husbands, wives and all, and they wanted to have sex with those women, but they were reluctant because their husbands were alive and prisoners of war. So this verse 4 verse 24 was revealed to make it all okay to have sex with slaves. I am not saying it, their books are saying it. Let us look at something else. The entire Sahih Muslim, that's an entire set of hadiths, chapter number 29, you know what's the title? It is permissible to have sexual intercourse with a captive woman after she is purified of menstrual cycle or delivery. In case she has a husband, her marriage is abrogated after she becomes captive. So a married woman is captured, her marriage is considered nullified, and she is good for you to do whatever you wish. Now, since in this age, what does Zakir say in the video? That in this age there are no wars. Yes, of course they are happening. Have you looked at the Middle East? What is ISIS doing? Here you see an honest Islamic scholar calling a spade a spade. So what we can see that Zakir Naik has blatantly lied and misquoted. Now this is okay if he is rejecting the hadiths like Islamic scholars such as P.J. Maulvi. But has he rejected and denounced the hadiths on which the entire Sunni faith at large depends upon? Let us see what he has to say about the hadiths.
I have got no objection if somebody believes with great scholars, with their views, as long as it matches with the Quran and the Sahih Hadith. But let him be the biggest scholar in the world. If its view disagrees, contradicts with the Quran and the Sahih Hadith, you don't have to follow that.
Interesting, right? Well, question number 7 for our dear Zakir Naik. Has he rejected the hadith in context that I quoted now? Question number 8. If Zakir is not unequivocally rejecting suicide bombing, rejecting terrorism, rejecting sex with slaves, can you tell me what activity of the ISIS is he actually rejecting? All the videos that you have seen so far by me are directly connected to the acts of terrorism and ISIS themselves. The colleagues of Zakir Naik in the business of Dawah, the likes of M.M. Akbar, are crying fascism and the murder of democracy and giving it a political flavor and calling it as crime against the minorities and stuff like that. What is the definition of democracy? Sitting in a democracy, what is their definition of democracy? Let's look at Zakir's definition of freedom of religion. That is one of the prime rights that you get as a part of a democracy. Let's see this.
एक गैर मुस्लिम हैं और इंडिया से उर्दू जानते हैं, समझते हैं. उन्होंने सवाल पूछा है कि क्या इस्लामी रियासत में हमें अपने मजहब की तबलीग की और अपनी इबादतगाहों की तामीर की इजाजत होती है? अगर होती है तो फिर सऊदी अरेबिया में और दूसरे इस्लामी मुल्कों में चर्च बनाने की परमिशन क्यों नहीं मिलती, जबकि आप मुसलमान लंदन और पेरिस में अपनी मस्जिदें बनाते हैं?
चंद इस्लामिक मुल्कों में, मिसाल के तौर पर सऊदी अरेबिया एटसेट्रा में, propagation of any other religion is prohibited. Even construction of any place of worship is also prohibited. और इसमें कई गैर मुस्लिम कहते हैं कि हम जब आपको अलाउ करते, हमारे कंट्री में आते, यूरोप में आते, अमेरिका में आते, तबलीग करते, मॉस्क बनाते, तो हमें क्यों नहीं परमिशन है? इसका मैं सिंपल सवाल पूछता हूं उन्हें कि मैं गैर मुसलमान से ये पूछता हूं, अगर आप एक स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल है और अगर आप मैथ्स टीचर चुनना चाहते हैं और 3 टीचर आते हैं, एक टीचर से आप और सवाल पूछे 2 जमा 2 कितना, तो पहला टीचर कहता है कि 2 जमा 2 3, दूसरा टीचर कहता है 2 जमा 2 4, तीसरा टीचर कहता है 2 जमा 2 6. तो मैं ये उनसे पूछता हूं, वो टीचर जो कहता है 2 जमा 2 3 या 2 जमा 2 6, क्या आप उसको स्कूल में रखेंगे? तो वो कहते हैं नहीं. मतलब क्यों? आप उसको पढ़ाने देंगे? बोलते नहीं पढ़ाने देंगे. क्यों नहीं देंगे? क्योंकि उसे मैथमेटिक्स का सही इल्म नहीं है. इसी तरीके से जहां दीन का सवाल है, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह सुम्मा अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, हम मुसलमान जानते हैं कि इन्न दीन इंदल्लाह इस्लाम. सूरह इमरान सूरह नंबर 3 आयत नंबर 19 की आयत है कि सिर्फ एक ही सही दीन है, वो है इस्लाम. और अल्लाह ताला फरमाते हैं सूरह इमरान सूरह नंबर 3 आयत नंबर 85 में कि इस्लाम के अलावा कोई भी दिगर मज़हब अल्लाह सुब्हानहू व तआला कबूल नहीं करेंगे. तो दीन के मामले में हम जानते हैं इस्लाम ही सिर्फ सही दीन है, इसीलिए हम दूसरे दीन का प्रोपगेशन अलाउ नहीं करते. जहां तक कि दूसरा सवाल है कि हम चर्च बनाने देंगे या टेम्पल बनाने देंगे, जब दीन ही गलत है और चर्च में ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम को पूजना गलत है, बुत परस्ती गलत है, इसीलिए हम गलत चीज हमारे मुल्क में अलाउ नहीं करेंगे. लेकिन ये सिर्फ सऊदी अरेबिया और चंद ममालिक है, सब मुस्लिम कंट्रीज को नहीं मानते.
ये थोड़ी सी बात जो है, यानी वो तो समझ रहे हैं कि उनका मजहब ठीक है
जी,
और हम भी समझ रहे हैं कि हमारा मजहब ठीक है, गैर मुस्लिम समझ रहे हैं उनका मजहब ठीक है. अब लोगों के सामने जाहिर है कि उनको आके
एक समझ लीजिए बात
जी,
मैथ्स के अंदर वो गैर मुसलमान 2 + 2 = 3 पढ़ाने देंगे नहीं अपने स्कूल में, क्योंकि वो कंफर्म्ड है कि 2 + 2 4 ही है. तो दीन के मामले में हम कंफर्म नहीं, नो कंफर्म नहीं. अगर वो कंफर्म होते तो गलत चीज क्यों पढ़ाने देंगे? उसी तरीके से हम जब रूल कर रहे हैं कौन सी कंट्री, हमें 100% पता है कि इस्लाम के अलावा दिगर मज़ाहिब सही नहीं है.
यहाँ कोई ह्यूमन राइट्स का मसला, कोई ऐसी बात
ह्यूमन राइट्स का सवाल नहीं. हाँ, अगर कोई प्रैक्टिस करना चाहता है मुस्लिम कंट्री में, अपने घर में प्रॉब्लम प्रोपगेट नहीं कर सकता. इसी तरीके से कोई टीचर अपने दिमाग में सोचता है 2 + 2 = 3 तो प्रॉब्लम नहीं, लेकिन बच्चे लोग को पढ़ाएंगे तो हम इसको बिल्कुल ये नहीं करेंगे कि हमारे बच्चों का पढ़ाओ 2 + 2 = 3. इसी तरीके से साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी में लोग माहिर है, हम साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी के लिए लोग को बुलाते हैं अमेरिका से, यूरोप से, आओ हमारे मुल्क में साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में आप माहिर है, हम आपसे सीखेंगे, लेकिन दीन के मामले में हम माहिर है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। तो इसी तरीके से जहां तक के उनका सवाल है, उन्हें अभी तक के इतना दे आर नॉट कंफर्म्ड इट, सो वी आर ट्राइंग टू गेट देम टू द राइट पार्ट ऑफ इस्लाम, देयरफॉर वी प्रोपेगेट आवर रिलीजन टू द नॉन मुस्लिम्स।
Well, if you're laughing after that video, you can be excused because so was I. But you can see that there are morons across his fan club who are in awe, wide-eyed awe at the nonsense that he just spouted. Now, freedom of religion is basic to any faith. If you have to love God, you need the freedom to reject Him as well. If you don't have that freedom, there is nothing that you have. You don't have a choice. It is more of a fascism and not democracy in that case. The very thing that these jokers are speaking against. So, question number 9 for Zakir and his fan club. In this video, you saw Zakir claiming that those countries in the Middle East where they do not allow other religions to propagate, do not allow because they know that they have the truth, and they are allowed to propagate in other countries because they are not so sure. So let me ask you, Mr. Zakir Naik, one of the largest gatherings that you have is in the city of Mumbai. Hundreds of thousands of people gather to hear you. The government allows you to do it, provides you the security to do it, gives you the permissions to do it across. Are you telling me that this country, which has a majority of Hindus, the Hindus are not clear about their faith, they are not sure about their faith, and they want you to come and teach them what the truth is? Is that what you're saying? Please answer me.
जी डॉक्टर साहब, एक और सवाल जो पूछा गया है आपसे वो ये है कि कोई शख्स इस्लामी रियासत में रहता है, काफिर है, अपना मजहब इख्तियार करता है, और जाहिर है कि मजहब में कहा गया कि जबर नहीं है, रिलीजन में बाय फोर्स इसको आप नहीं कर सकते इम्प्लीमेंट। एक शख्स फैसला करता है कि मैं किसी दूसरे मजहब में चला जाऊं, मैं ईसाई हो जाऊं, यहूदी हो जाऊं, जबर तो नहीं है, लेकिन मुर्तद की सजा मौत है। क्यों? अगर उसको कोई दूसरा रिलीजन अपील करे और वो उसे इख्तियार कर ले, या वापस चला जाए, मुसलमान हुआ लेकिन कुछ दिनों बाद उसे एहसास हुआ कि नहीं मुझे वापस, सजा मौत क्यों है मजहब में?
अगर कोई मुसलमान गैर मुसलमान बनता है तो इसकी अगर वो प्रोपेगेट करता है अपना रिलीजन, नया रिलीजन, इट इज एज गुड एज ट्रीजन। तो इस्लाम के अंदर सजाए मौत है। और आप कई ममालिक का रूल पढ़ेंगे, द पनिशमेंट फॉर ट्रीजन, अगर कोई आर्मी जनरल अपने ब्लूप्रिंट्स, अपने आर्मी की सीक्रेट्स कोई दूसरे मुल्क को बेचता है तो उसके लिए डेथ पेनल्टी है या इट इज इम्प्रिजनमेंट फॉर लाइफ। तो उसी तरीके से जब बाकी ममालिक के अंदर ये लॉ है, तो इस्लाम के अंदर भी अगर कोई मुसलमान गैर मुसलमान बनता है और अपने नई दीन को फैलाता है, प्रोपेगेट करता है, उसके लिए द पेनल्टी इज डेथ।
Question number 11. Since Zakir publicly invites people from other faiths such as Christianity, Hinduism and other faiths to accept Islam, then by his definition, those apostates from other faiths have also committed treason. Is Zakir asking other faiths also to kill their apostates? Or such silly double standards are applicable only for Islam? Please answer us. Last but not the least, question number 12. If Zakir is literally against the ISIS and its works, why hasn't Zakir, who is known for all his propaganda nonsense, done a single program condemning the ISIS and showing from the Quran and the Sahih Hadith how whatever the ISIS is doing is wrong? Why not? Please tell us. So my appeal to the people of this country, to my Muslim friends, is not to fall for the victim card of Zakir. He's by any standards not a victim. If he's so much sure about his innocence, he's got a bunch of lawyers, I'm sure of that. He can afford the finest, he's made his millions. He can definitely prove his innocence. And the courts, as I said, in India are known for their fairness across the world. This is not an Islamic country where you'll be beheaded without giving you due chance to prove yourself. Now, as I said earlier, his fans, instead of answering the questions that we have raised, which is very genuine questions and we have provided evidence on that behalf, will again be saying that, oh, he's a great debater and he's a great scholar, and because of that people are jealous of him and they are unable to defeat the ideology or respond to his ideology. they'll be posting all of this silliness. So let me close the first point. Even in this video and across all our videos, we see all the Muslims saying, oh, why didn't you go and debate Zakir directly? We have, and you can go to a website, you can see all the evidence. He never responds to anybody, not just us at Sakshi Apologetics Network, but across the world. People have been inviting him because he's somehow the blue-eyed poster boy of Islam. What does he do? He evades every one of them. Then he invites the Pope to come and debate him. And at this time, all I can say to his fans is that the same offer that we had done earlier, if you can get Zakir Naik to the stand, we will gift you 1 lakh rupees, that is 100,000 Indian rupees, and a nano car. Yeah, don't laugh, that's all that we can afford. That's from our own pockets. We don't have any petrol dollars flowing into our pockets for now, or at any point of time. However, we wish one thing, that he'll come back soon from his current home in Dubai. Until then, we'll be exposing the ideology of terrorism and how these dawah organizations are nothing more than undergraduate programs for suicide bombers. Until then, stay safe and God bless.